Welcome back to the Slow Almanac. I'm Ali. Tonight, we wander together slowly to a place where nothing is in a hurry, and neither are we. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, take a moment to subscribe before we begin. That way, the next slow story will find you on Sunday night. Let your weight settle into wherever you are lying or sitting. There is nothing you need to hold on to tonight, no name to remember, no fact to keep. The voice you are listening to is slow on purpose and steady on purpose, and the place we are going is in no hurry to be anywhere at all. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands go soft. Let your jaw unclench, if it was clenched. Take a slow breath in through your nose, just a natural breath, nothing forced, and let it go at its own pace. Good. There is nothing to do now but arrive. You are standing on a hillside, on a south-facing slope above a wide river bend. The hill rises gently behind you and falls away in front of you in a series of broad, level steps. Each step perhaps 1.5 meters wide, held in place by a low stone wall no taller than your knee. The walls are old. The stone is dark with lichen, gray and soft orange and a pale dusty green. They have been here long enough that small ferns have seeded themselves into the gaps between the stones, and the ferns are doing well. On each terrace, in long, even rows, there are tea bushes. They are low, waist height, perhaps a little less, and they have been pruned so many times, over so many years, that their tops are perfectly flat, like a series of low green tables running across the hillside. The leaves are small and pointed and very dark, a green so deep it is almost the color of a forest at dusk. In the early morning light, and it is early morning here, the sun just clearing the ridge to the east. The leaves catch the light from below, and the whole hillside seems to glow from inside. The air smells of the leaves. It is a green smell, and a slightly grassy smell, and underneath it something sweeter. Something like new hay, something like a garden after rain. If you breathe in slowly, you can hold it. It is a clean smell. It is one of the cleanest smells there is. Below the terraces, the hillside drops to the river. You can hear the river, just barely. A low, continuous sound, more felt than heard, like the memory of water. The river bends here, and the bend catches the morning light, and the surface of the water is pale silver and perfectly still at the edges. The path you are standing on runs along the top of one of the middle terraces. It is a narrow path, just wide enough for one person, worn smooth by many years of the same feet walking the same route. To your left, the hill climbs another 8 or 10 terraces before reaching a stand of older trees, tall, dark canopied trees that the growers have left there on purpose, as you will understand later. To your right, the terraces continue down toward the river, the rows of bushes growing slightly taller as the slope eases, the stone walls a little lower. You sit down on one of the low walls. The stone is cool under your hands. The lichen is dry and slightly rough. A small brown spider, no bigger than your thumbnail, is moving very slowly along the top of the wall, a few inches from your hand. It does not change direction. It is going somewhere at its own pace, and it does not need to explain itself. The bushes in front of you are still. The wind, when it comes in long, slow waves from the south, and you can see it moving through the rows before you feel it. A slow darkening of the leaves as they turn, then a brightening again as they settle. It is like watching a field of water. It is like watching something breathe. The rows are very even. Whoever planted them, whoever first cut the terraces into this hillside, had a careful eye. The spacing between rows is almost exactly the same all the way down the slope. The paths between them are just wide enough to walk without brushing the bushes on either side. This is not an accident. The spacing has a purpose, as most things on this hillside do. You are sitting on a terraced tea garden on a south-facing hillside above a river bend. That is all. The morning is young, the light is low and golden, the bushes are very still, and the river is far below, and there is nothing here that is in any hurry. Let me say all of that again, in a slightly different way. You are on a hillside shaped like a staircase. Each step of the staircase is a long, level terrace, held up from below by a low stone wall. On each terrace, there are rows of tea bushes, pruned flat, dark green, very still in the early morning air. The air smells of leaves and grass and something faintly sweet. Below the hillside, a river bends in the low light, and the sound of it barely reaches you. This is a place that has been shaped by hand over a very long time. Every stone wall was placed by someone. Every row was laid out by someone. Every bush was planted and tended and shaped. The hillside you are looking at is the result of many generations of careful attention. Not dramatic attention, not urgent attention, but the quiet, seasonal, unhurried kind. The bushes in front of you are old. The trunks, if you lean forward and look through the flat green canopy of leaves at the base of the nearest plant, are woody and thick, gray-brown, with the texture of old rope. The oldest bushes on this hillside have been here for 60 or 80 years, perhaps longer. They were planted by someone who is no longer alive, for a harvest that person would never see in its full maturity. That is the kind of thinking this hillside requires. The flat top of each bush, the smooth, even surface of clipped leaves, is where the harvest happens. In the right season, the very newest leaves push up from the surface in small, pale, tender shoots. They are lighter in color than the older leaves beneath them, almost yellow-green, almost translucent in the right light. They are the part of the plant that will become tea. They are the reason for all of this. The light is moving across the hillside now, very slowly as the sun climbs. The shadows of the tall trees at the top of the slope stretch down across the upper terraces and shorten degree by degree as the morning goes on. You can watch the light move if you are patient. It moves at the pace of a minute hand on a clock, too slow to see directly, but undeniable if you look away and look back. The stone wall beneath you is warming slightly on its south-facing side. You can feel that through your hand. The lichen on the top of the wall is dry and slightly papery. The small brown spider has gone. There is birdsong somewhere above you in the tree line, but it is distant and unhurried. Nothing sharp, nothing sudden, just the ordinary sound of a hillside morning going about its business. You are not required to do anything here. You are not required to understand anything, or remember anything, or be anywhere else. You can simply be on this wall, in this light, with the smell of tea leaves in the air, and the river barely audible below. The bushes hold their stillness. The terraces step down the hill, one after another, all the way to the river. The stone walls hold everything in place. This is what the hillside looks like. This is what it has looked like, more or less, for longer than anyone now living can remember. The story of how this hillside came to be what it is now is a long story. It is not a story with a single beginning or a single person who made the key decision. It is the kind of story that accumulates season by season, generation by generation, the way the stone walls themselves were built, one stone at a time, each one placed by someone who expected the wall to still be standing long after they were gone. It begins with water. A hillside without terraces sheds water quickly. When rain falls on a slope, it runs downhill, gathering speed, carrying soil with it. A steep slope can lose a great deal of its topsoil in a single heavy rain. The fine, dark, mineral-rich layer that plants depend on, washed down into the valley and gone. The first thing the people who shaped this hillside understood was that if you want to grow the same thing in the same place for 100 years, you have to keep the soil where it is. The terraces are the answer to that. Each level terrace breaks the slope into a series of flat plains. The rain falls on the terrace and slows. Instead of running straight downhill, the water pauses, soaks in, moves laterally through the soil, and drains slowly over the edge of the stone wall, rather than carrying the soil with it. The wall catches what the rain would have taken. The soil stays. But it is not quite as simple as just building a flat step. If the terrace is perfectly level, the water will sit in it after heavy rain, and the roots of the tea plants will drown. If the terrace tilts even slightly backward into the hillside, the water will pool against the uphill wall, and the soil will become waterlogged and cold. The terrace has to slope very slightly outward toward the downhill wall so that water moves through it slowly but does not linger. This is a small thing, a fraction of a degree of slope, but it took many seasons to learn. The people who first cut these terraces into this hillside made mistakes. Some early terraces held water badly. Some walls failed in heavy rain and had to be rebuilt. The knowledge of how to cut a terrace that drains well, how to read the hillside, how to find the natural line of drainage and work with it rather than against it, is knowledge that was earned slowly through failure and adjustment over generations. The terraces you are sitting on now represent the accumulated learning of all of that. They are not just stone walls. They are a record of what was tried and what worked. The soil itself has also been shaped over time. Tea plants are particular about soil. They prefer it slightly acidic, not dramatically acidic, just gently so, the kind of soil that certain mosses and ferns and conifers also prefer. They prefer it well drained but not dry. They prefer it deep, so the roots can go down a long way and find water in dry seasons without drowning in wet ones. The soil on this hillside has been amended, slowly, over many decades. Fallen leaves from the trees at the top of the slope are raked and composted and returned to the terraces. The pruned cuttings from the bushes themselves, the woody stems and older leaves removed each season, are composted and returned. The soil is fed by the hillside itself in a slow loop that the cultivators manage but do not control. There are also earthworms and fungi and a whole community of small organisms in the soil that the cultivators have learned over time to protect. Some of the older growers on hillsides like this one will tell you that the soil under a well-managed tea garden smells different from ordinary garden soil, darker, more complex, more alive. This is not poetry, it is chemistry. The fungi that grow in the root zone of established tea plants form a network with the roots, exchanging minerals for sugars, extending the plant's reach through the soil far beyond what the roots alone could manage. This network takes decades to establish. It cannot be rushed. It is one of the reasons why old plants, in old soil, on old hillsides, make tea that tastes different from tea grown in young plantations on fresh cleared land. The flavor of the tea, the particular quality that makes tea from this hillside taste like tea from this hillside and not from somewhere else, is partly in the plant and partly in the soil and partly in the slope and the light and the water, and it cannot be separated from any of those things. It is a flavor that belongs to this place, and it has taken a long time to arrive. The trees at the top of the slope, the tall, dark canopied trees you noticed earlier, are part of the management too. They are not ornamental. They are not there by accident. They are there because shade matters. Tea plants, left in full sun all day, produce leaves that are more astringent, higher in certain compounds that give tea its dry, gripping quality. Tea plants that receive some shade during the hottest part of the day produce leaves with a different balance of compounds, less astringent, more of the amino acids that give certain teas their soft, almost savory depth. The shade does not eliminate the sun. It moderates it. It softens the middle of the day. The trees at the top of the slope cast their shadows down across the upper terraces in the afternoon. The angle of the shadows changes through the seasons, longer in winter, shorter in summer, and this variation is itself a kind of management. The cultivators who placed those trees, or who chose to leave them when they might have cleared them, understood the relationship between the tree canopy and the tea below. They understood it not as a principle they had read somewhere, but as something they had observed, season by season, in the flavor of what they harvested. Some hillsides use temporary shade structures, frames of bamboo or woven reed, to shade specific rows of bushes in the weeks before harvest. This intensifies the effect, pushing the plants to produce more of the compounds that give shade-grown tea its particular character. The shade structures are put up carefully, checked daily, and removed after the harvest. It is one more thing to manage, one more layer of attention that the hillside requires. The hillside asks a great deal of attention, not urgent attention, not anxious attention, but the steady, returning kind, the kind that comes back to the same place at the same time every year and notices what has changed and what has stayed the same. The pruning is perhaps the most important thing the cultivators do, and it is the thing that looks, from a distance, most like nothing at all. Once a year, usually in autumn, after the last harvest of the season, the bushes are cut back, not severely, not to the ground. The flat top of each bush is lowered by a few centimeters. The sides are trimmed. The interior of the bush, where old wood has built up and the leaves have become crowded and dark, is opened slightly to let air through. This is done by hand, with curved blades, or sometimes with long-handled shears that run along the flat surface of the bush like a plane along a piece of wood. The sound of it, a long, smooth, continuous cutting sound, is one of the sounds of autumn on this hillside. It happens on every terrace, row by row, for days. The purpose of the pruning is not simply to keep the bushes tidy. It is to manage where the plant puts its energy. A tea plant, left unpruned, will grow upward and outward, producing woody stems and fewer of the tender new shoots that make good tea. The pruning redirects the plant's energy back toward the surface, toward the production of new growth, new leaves, new shoots. The flat top of the bush is not an aesthetic choice. It is a harvest surface maintained by annual cutting, designed to produce the maximum number of new shoots in the most accessible position. But the pruning also has a longer purpose. Every few years, perhaps every 5 or 7 years, depending on the age and condition of the plant, the bushes are cut back more severely. This is called a renovation cut. The flat canopy is taken down much further to older wood, and the bush is allowed to regrow from lower down. This renews the productive surface, removes accumulated old wood, and resets the plant's growth cycle. A bush that has been through several renovation cuts over many decades is a different plant from a young bush, more deeply rooted, more thoroughly established in its soil, more capable of drawing on the network of fungi and minerals that the years have built around it. The renovation cut is a kind of trust. You cut the bush back hard, and for a season it produces almost nothing. You wait. The following season, the new growth comes in strong and pale and full of the compounds that make good tea. The cultivator who makes the renovation cut is not cutting for this season's harvest. They are cutting for the harvests of the next decade. This is the kind of thinking the hillside requires. Not next week, not next season necessarily, the next decade, the next generation. The harvest itself is a slow thing, done by hand. The pickers move along the rows, taking only the newest growth, the top 2 or 3 leaves and the bud at the tip of each new shoot. Nothing else. The older leaves are left, the woody stems are left. Only the newest, palest, most tender part of the plant is taken. This takes time. A skilled picker, moving steadily along a row, takes what the bush offers and nothing more. The selection is made leaf by leaf, shoot by shoot. The same judgment repeated thousands of times in a single morning. The hand learns the weight of a good shoot, the slight resistance of a leaf that is ready, the difference between a shoot that is at its peak and one that has gone a day too far. The timing of the harvest matters enormously. The same bush, picked a week earlier or a week later, will produce leaves with a different balance of flavors. The cultivators watch the bushes in the weeks before harvest, watching the rate of new growth, watching the color of the emerging shoots, watching the weather. A warm spell followed by a cool night can change the timing by several days. Rain can delay the harvest or accelerate it. The decision of when to begin picking is made slowly, carefully, based on what the hillside is showing. There is a first harvest in spring, when the new growth after winter is the most prized, the palest, the most tender, the highest in the compounds that give the best tea its character. There is a second harvest in early summer, which is larger but less refined. There may be a third in late summer, which is larger still but coarser, and then the autumn pruning and the long rest of winter, and then the whole cycle begins again. The cycle has been running on this hillside for longer than anyone can say with certainty. The stone walls have been rebuilt in places. Some of the oldest bushes have been replaced. But the cycle itself, the pruning, the waiting, the watching, the harvest, the rest, continues. It is the rhythm of this place. It is as reliable as the river below. Come back to where you are sitting. The stone wall is cool under your hands. The lichen is dry and slightly rough. The tea bushes in front of you are very still, their flat green surfaces catching the morning light. The air smells of leaves. The river is below, and the sound of it is low and continuous and soft. You are on a terraced hillside above a river bend. The terraces step down below you, one after another, all the way to the water. The stone walls hold everything in place. The rows of bushes are very even, very quiet, very old. The hillside is not dramatic. It does not ask to be looked at. It is simply here, doing what it has always done, holding the soil in place, shading the roots, draining the rain slowly through the stone walls, waiting for the right moment in each season to offer what it has grown. The bushes do not know they are being tended. They do not know about the generations of careful attention that shaped the terraces they are rooted in, or the trees that were left at the top of the slope to soften the afternoon light, or the annual pruning that redirects their energy back toward the surface. They simply grow in the conditions they find themselves in, toward the light. The cultivators do not need the bushes to know any of this. They tend the hillside because the hillside produces something worth tending. They have been doing it long enough that the tending itself has become a kind of knowledge, not written down, not easily explained, but present in the hands that know how to hold a cutting blade, in the eyes that can read the color of a new shoot and know whether to wait another day. This is what a hillside looks like when it has been cared for across many lifetimes. Not grand, not dramatic, just very still and very even, and quietly full of everything that has been learned and returned to the soil. The morning light is moving across the terraces now. The shadows of the upper trees are shorter than they were when you arrived. The river below is catching more of the light, and the pale silver of the water has warmed to something closer to gold. The first harvest of the season is still weeks away. The bushes are resting. The new shoots have not yet appeared. The surface of each bush is a single flat plane of dark green, smooth and unbroken, waiting. Everything here is waiting, in the comfortable way of things that know what comes next and are in no hurry for it to arrive. If you'd like more of these, you can follow along quietly. The button is just below this video. Sleep well. Let your eyes stay closed if they are closed. The hillside is still. The rows of bushes hold their stillness. The stone walls hold the soil. The river bends below, barely audible, a low, continuous sound like the room breathing. 12 degrees in the shade of the upper trees. The lichen on the wall dry and rough and very old. You can stay here as long as you like. The hillside will be exactly the same when you go. The bushes will not have moved. The stone walls will not have shifted. The next harvest is weeks away, and there is nothing to do tonight but rest. The light moves slowly across the terraces. The leaves are very still. The river is below,